Hello, my name is Lisa, and I'm an aspiring author who doesn't know what she's doing, and today I'm going to go over why I chose Google Docs over Scrivener. So let me show you my Scrivener setup. I'm not going to show you everything just because there are some parts of my book in here I'm not quite comfortable putting online yet. So I spent a few weeks setting up my Scrivener, and I actually had a few iterations of this. And I found a video on YouTube of somebody who set up their Scrivener not just for one book, but for their whole entire universe. And I thought, I want to write a whole universe, despite the fact that I've never finished a draft of a book. And you know what? I copied, for the most part, their setup. I'll link the tutorial below if you want to check it out. So for my setup, you can see in here that I have it by chapters, and then I have just some basic information about the book. But the parts that took me the most to set up that aren't actually relevant for what I'm working on right now is the templates. So in the templates, you can see there's some generic templates that you probably have in your own Scrivener project if you're working in Scrivener. You have the scenes, but the series and the anthology is really where I shouldn't have put time into. So for the series, you can see there's novel 1, and then within that, there's front matter, back matter, and incidentals. And if you open these up, there's even more information in here. Now, all of this is good information to have and great setup to have built out. However, having not finished a single draft of any book I've ever started, this is probably not the best way to spend your time. For me, this ended up being procrastination instead of actually working on things that are going to get me to the end of my first draft. This isn't the only area in Scrivener that ended up being a distraction for me. Like, for instance, if you go into the calendar and timeline, I actually spent a lot of time planning out what the world timeline was and what happened in what year and how everything led to where it is. And I spent a lot of time working on seasons per location based on the map that I made of this world, which I'll actually talk in a different video and show you the map that I made. But the seasons are about locations that don't happen in the book and are never referenced in the book. I feel like there's a lot of little moments like that within my Scrivener project that I spent so much time building out that aren't actually relevant for my first draft or probably the story at all. Having all of this available on the side and seeing it whenever I try to go between my scenes is really distracting. So that's one of the reasons I decided to switch over to Google Docs. So the other reason is because for Google Docs, I have it on all of my devices. I have it on my computer, iPad, and iPhone, and it syncs really well between all of them so I can work on any one of the devices. I actually prefer to write on my iPad with my cool keyboard because it just makes me feel good. So it's very nice that I'm able to write on my iPad and sync it to any other one of my devices easily. I feel like I was really struggling with syncing my projects on Scrivener. So for my Google layout, I was going to show you my active draft, but I feel like it's pretty awful and I'm not quite confident enough to share that on YouTube. So instead, I'm just going to show you what the layout looks like. So this is what my document is structured like. So I have chapter 1, and then I'll put a little name so I know what the chapter is about. And then I also do the same thing with my scenes. So I'll do scene 1 and then name or event. Usually I try to keep this simple, like something like lunch or cave. And I try to just do enough that will trigger my brain to know what that scene is about. And then I'll continue on to scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, and I don't reset the scenes between chapters. I also set the chapters as heading 1 and the scenes as heading 2. So that way over here on the Documents tab, they're easy to navigate to. While I'm writing, however, I only see the current scene, and sometimes I'll see a little bit of the scene above it, and I made a rule for myself that I can't look at previous scenes, only maybe the last 2 or 3 lines so I know where I'm starting off. And these chapters actually correspond with the chapters in my bullet journal, which I'll actually link below for you if you want to check out that video. I will be revisiting Scrivener for my second draft. I will start a brand new project so that way I can really narrow the scope of what I'm focusing on. But I feel like Scrivener will be more impactful for draft 2 because that's when I'm going to be working on world elements and consistency throughout my story, which is where these extra folders and research section can come in handy. I am really excited to show you guys that once we get to the draft 2 process on this page, but until then I'm going to continue using Google Docs for my first draft. But I'm really curious, what are you using and what are your thoughts? Otherwise, that's all I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.